the live show number 343. I'm your host, Loren, and as you can tell, the decor has changed. I am broadcasting live to St. Petersburg, Florida. So as such, backdrop is different. Anyway, we will have a relatively shorter show today, given that I'm traveling on the road and that the topic is kind of a fluid one when it comes to what exactly we can do in current circumstances. Obviously, as we talked about in last week's show, the unfolding of events that are happening on a global scale at this point are having ripple effects, chaos there, if you want to call it, the wings of a butterfly, chain influence the hurricane on the other side of the world. We know that there are influencing factors with what's happening politically with Ukraine and how it affects global economies. We know we've already had China supply chain issues. We are going to be having different fuel issues, and those fuel issues relate to our industry very directly. They will influence people's travel decisions. And when you add the cost factors that are affecting people's lives, in addition to their standard of living, their rentals, their home ownerships, whatever, there's a larger than ever influence financially on people's income growth. And because of that, the variable expenses associated with travel turn into flux. Also, it'll affect corporates' decisions of travel. We didn't have our corporate travel rebound as of yet. We see aspects of it, of course, coming back to market, but we don't have it back to its previous COVID days by any stretch. And there's also, as we've discussed many times on the live show, a certain permanency to some business travel that just won't come back because the ability to do things like this on screens, showing efficiencies and successes, and the technologies that has advanced due to demand, that these platforms have become more efficient, more useful, more common, more available to cut the costs of the required travel. That being said, we all agree that travel, business travel in particular, cannot be fully replaced by something like this. And of course, when we're talking about conferences and meeting events and so forth, attendance to those is not only just related to the technology of availability, but also to the actual costs associated with getting here and the safety of the COVID pandemic still as it exists. And so all of those influences come to what's happening to our industry at this particular point. The topics that I wanted to talk about today in a very particular way was about guiding direct communication growth. We are seeing a transition, as we talked about last week in the live show, as to the usages of social media and the traditional usages of social media and the newer emerging social media platforms. Also, the types of media that is being consumed by guests and people is changing even more than it had already changed up to the pandemic. We are seeing much more fluid content being put on places like TikTok, Google Shorts, Snapchat. These 1 minute editable, snackable kind of content pieces is a driving force of communication. People don't have large amounts of time. We already knew historically that long reading content like blogs and so forth was a bit of a luxury now. When if you have the time to do so, it's fine to do. But most of the times when you're trying to keep up with the massive diversity of information that you are getting from places, short and brief is the most useful. And to do that, to keep the attention, you need it to be entertaining or helpful for the purpose of watching it. So in that process with these platforms, the older social platforms, the Facebooks of the world, even the Twitters of the world, less so that, more so Facebook, are evolving in their usage. We're beginning to realize the biasness towards some of the social platforms, but most importantly, what we're realizing is the lack of control that we have on these social platforms. I don't know if you have had firsthand experiences of being shut out of a social media platform for things you don't know why. It may have been that you liked the wrong post that was blacklisted, and then because you liked it, it got knocked off. It might be because you were hacked. It might be a lot of different reasons, but not being in control of those engaging conversations and being held hostage by those that run the platform, like Facebook, is very frustrating. Plenty of stories of companies that were very successful in what they did going bust because the platform that was their lead, like Facebook, like Instagram, um, changed their algorithm, and all of a sudden their business model was lost. It didn't generate the revenues that it had generated historically. Jobs were lost, businesses were lost, and it was that reliance on somebody else's sandbox. We've mentioned this over many years over the live show, that when you play in somebody else's sandbox, you have to play by their rules. And so because of that, you're at their mercy for your business model. So the less reliant you are on these platforms solely for communication to your audiences, the better you are. Well, how do you get off of those? How do you get off of a Facebook? How do you get off of a Twitter? How do you make it that you try to shift people's communication to talking to you and you to them directly? We know that there's many rules associated with GDPR, CCPA, all these rules to mitigate how we handle the content of data that we as marketers and business people have to you as the consumer. Part of a lot of that is based on our abuse of that over the time that these rules had to get formed to keep us from preventing us from doing those kind of things. So because of that, we've always exonerated the need for direct communication. When you rely upon somebody else's sandbox or somebody else's platform, you are creating a dependency that you are not in control of. And as we've seen, as I mentioned in news articles, where companies have gone in the wrong direction because their sandbox was taken away from them. Facebook shut them off or changed the algorithm so they weren't getting the traffic they based their business on. This means that we have to find a way to communicate. Nobody wants an extra app. Nobody wants too many apps that they don't regularly use. So the app angle on your phone is a little challenging. Nobody always wants to have to go to your website. Go to whatever it is and then remember to log in if they don't have automated password systems on their phones to do so. And see, I keep referring to phones because that is the medium of the internet now. The mobile internet is the internet. Desktops such as this that I'm working on and or iPads or tablets and so forth are the luxury additionals. Doesn't mean they don't have value and importance. Different businesses converge differently on these platforms, but mobile is the engagement that we first pass through before we go to the others. So with that in mind, how do you get them to talk to you? What ways can you have? So we've touched on some other ways in times past, but I would like to remind everyone about these again. And that is things like bots. And these aren't using the messenger bot on Facebook. That's in itself its own entity. And that is still reliant upon Facebook. But you yourself can have your own control of your dialogue. Granted, you're using somebody else's software, but you're not relying upon them to mitigate the usage of the platform. You get to use the platform the way you intended it for your direct communication on your website, mostly, to using that platform. So therefore, they're not a gatekeeper, a policeman of the usage of that. There are a variety of private network creation capabilities, and they're all up to the niche that you're looking for as to what you will use it for. The one that I like to refer to the most that has the most integration capabilities is a platform called Manychat, ManyChat.com. Manychat allows you to do SMS messaging. It allows you to do direct messaging. It allows you to convert them over to email communications. It allows a live chat on your website. It allows for a variety of ways of interacting with your guests. It's between you and them. That eliminates the dependency issues of other people's sandbox, like a Facebook. It eliminates the other platforms of necessity where that you have to dialogue through them outside of what you can control. This lends itself to another whole larger leap of consideration, and that is another technology like having your own social media platform. It's been tried many times and not very successful in it because it means asking your guests to adopt yet something else to communicate with you. This is a medium that if you have the modality of content, then you have the value of considering this. The platform I'm thinking about to talk about is a platform called Uki, UUKI. Uki allows you to create your own social media platform. It's yours. You can control it. The software is there to be facilitating, not in any way policing. And it allows you to create, just like you do with Facebook, a means of communication that people join in on. Now, last week we talked a little bit about platforms like Discord and Twitch and so forth, but mainly Discord. It's fascinating that is a medium of communication. You can use that. You can say, hey, join it. But the issue with that is, just like with Uki, is that you have to have them create an account on the platform. And then by means of that creation of an account on the platform to go in. Now, Discord, different than Uki, Discord, you have to follow their guidelines. Now, they don't have as stringent of a police force when it comes to monitoring what you do with your Discord server. But there is guidelines. Obviously, there's laws that you can't break. And the same thing with Uki or anybody else. You can't be illegal with what you do this, and you're not intending to. The idea of it is that you're going to use it as a means of dialogue and communication platform for people to use. With Uki, it's a matter of just going to the platform itself as available on your website. And then from there, they can either hot link it over to their phone and use it as a shortcut, and or you only use it as a dialogue to you, as mentioning earlier on our first discussion here. Apps and the real estate of apps on your phone is prime real estate. And unless there's a persistent usage of it, it gets delegated to a lack of usage and eventually gets taken off your phone for lack of usage. So it has to be valuable for the time that it's there. Uki, and whether people know it or not, they can take any web link and make a shortcut on their phone if that's what they use. Uki allows you to create a social media platform that allows for a more peer-to-peer conversation. Unlike Manychat and so forth, which is you talking to your guest, Uki allows guests to talk to guests. It allows for more interaction of a community in that way. People can be interested in certain family travel. People can be interested in certainly non-family travel, event travel, so forth. There can be different aspects of the chat that allows guests to communicate with each other and share their experiences and or their interests and or their recommendations. One of the strongest things we ever did was with a previous client, we created basically a series of mommy bloggers that were related to specific age groups because they themselves were moms of those kids of those ages. And it answered a tremendous amount of questions for our client, for people that are looking to come to our client, as to what to do with a child of that age. Huge success. Taking that concept and putting it in internally, if you have that diversity of people coming to your hotel, and you are of scale, that you have a diversity of things for people to engage with, restaurants to go to and things. And it doesn't have to be your restaurants, but things around you. You have to be in a destination location enough that there's enough stuff for people to be wanting to engage you with for, then something like that might be helpful. If it's just Q&A, direct answer, they want to talk to you about talking back to them, then a Manychat has great success because then you're really just having direct communication with them. You can create a liaison that says, how do you want me to send an information? Do you want me to SMS this to you? Do you want me to notify you? Do you want me to send you an email? It allows for that direct communication between you and the guest. Uki, as a social media platform, allows guests, as I said, to communicate with other guests and share experiences based on qualifiers. And you can have your own team on there for different reasons to address particular topics and or interests, and you can be the authoritative dialogue on that. So if it proves to have value for you for that, these platforms are very useful. If you don't have the dedication and capability of doing this, and or you think you don't have the audience or purpose for having that audience to communicate with you, what other ways can you generate direct communication with your guests? The best, fastest way, and we've talked about this in many ways, and we've talked about platforms to do this in many ways, is creating a gift certificate program and or membership program. Gift certificate programs allow you a window of opportunity. We had a great discussion live show-wise in October of last year about the usages of gift certificates. So of course, it was coming into the holiday season at the time, and that's always a prime chance for gift certificates because of the uncertainty of what to buy from people. But you want to personalize it, so you want to buy a gift certificate for something that you know the recipient wants to do. And we talked about the value proposition, the marketing value proposition of the gift certificate program. I'd like to talk about the communication benefit of a gift certificate program. When you have someone purchase a gift certificate with you and also give it to somebody, you really are getting a twofer. You're getting the contact person that's getting this. And if you don't already have their information, you're definitely getting it at this stage. So you can communicate with them because they went through the effort of buying a gift certificate. If they bought it for somebody else, you're also getting their information because they're now the recipient of the reimbursement of that gift certificate. And so they're going to want to communicate with you because they want to make their reservations and redeem the gift certificate they got. So you get 2 contact points for one gift certificate program if they're buying it for someone else as a gift. In that process, it allows you, through all the guidelines that we now operate under, to communicate directly with both of them, offering them ways of communicating. How often do you want to hear from us? What do you want to hear about? Is there anything particular that we can send you something on? But that direct communication means that nobody else's sandboxes, nobody else's things really need to be used or discussed. It's a direct feed from you to them. Now, this satisfies the half that we just talked about. There's the direct communication, and then there's the peer-to-peer communication. If in that process of communicating with things to do and so forth, if you have a social group like an Uki platform where people are participating in, like because they've used you as authority for their travel destination to your location, your destination information is great, people love it, they trust your recommendations and so forth. So you have a community of people that like engaging with you. Then you can change the conversation that you have with your membership or your gift certificate people to one of, hey, you can join our social communities and expand your awareness beyond what we're telling you. You don't have to always ask questions. You can listen to other people's comments and then from that be inspired from things you may not have known what to ask questions for. But it involves you to understanding better how you can, do the FOMO and how you can see the biggest ball of twine if you want to. Because it was shared in a social media that wasn't a matter of you having to ask where the biggest ball of twine was. You were made aware of the biggest ball of twine because it was in dialogue in the social community. It also means that the communication can be very centric to the audience that's using the platform. And that goes to the people that bought gift certificates as well. They're obviously interested in your product. They're obviously interested in what you have to offer. We talked about the marketing when we first presented this program about how you can enhance the relationship by offering value propositions to the gift certificates that have yet to be redeemed, the ability to use it on certain days to get certain rates. You're creating a unique relationship with them, which lends itself to the next point of discussion, which is about membership. Is there something that people can join? Is there a value proposition by joining? One discussion that we had last year was how we approached membership with one of our clients, in which we wanted to shift OTA traffic to a direct channel traffic, which is highly valuable, especially with commissions that you have to pay OTAs and so forth. And if you're not in your own meta search program, which you should be, this is another way of channel shifting off of the OTAs. And what this does is, what we did for membership was we had 4 tiers of membership. The highest tier was representative of our most dedicated, loyal guests. What did we do? We went through the past 2 years of guests, and we made basically 3 criteria: who spent the most money, who stayed the longest, and who had the largest relationship with us, corporate-wise or not. That created a top tier relationship. We just literally gave them the top level relationship. You guys are there for us. You're here the most. You spend the most. You do the most business with us. We are acknowledging that value to us and saying you're our top tier membership. Here's your immediate benefit. Here's your long-term benefits. And it's not a charge function. The next tier was those people that we were wanting to recognize for being towards that, the people that were doing very successful, well, so forth and so on. And then the tier below that was people that were intermittent, and the lowest tier was just kind of an introductory thing. So what we did was everybody that was checked in with the OTA, we literally say, congratulations, we have started this membership program, and we would like to offer you our second highest tier for the first year. If you stay with us this many times or spend this much money with us, you'll maintain that status with us. If not, then you'll be down at the tier below that. And if not, you just defaulted to the first tier, but it'll always allow a relationship with us. What this membership allows you to do is to get permission to communicate with them beyond the single point of transaction that they had with you as a guest. Now, Hilton tried this membership program to get around, circumnavigate the parity pricing and so forth by saying if you signed up with us, we could offer you member-only discounts. People would sign up for it, and literally it was 47 seconds later that they were unsubscribing from their membership. They had no interest in keeping the dialogue with Hilton, and they just wanted to do it so they can get the better rate that was being offered because of doing it. And then Hilton didn't even use the connections that did stay to the full benefit of what should have been done for them. So that was a success-failure combination that I think was representative of how Hilton handled this. I'm not saying that this is what we did. This is what we did was different. We did it so that we put the value in front of the effort to get it rewarded. So many of these membership relationships, especially for brands, are about carrot on a stick. They're more about frequency programs than they are about loyalty programs. You have to get to a certain level before you are acknowledged with a bottle of water or whatever, early check-in or something, which is not indicative of the effort to get there. By all means, I don't feel any of the reward programs are not indicative of the effort to get to the levels of rewards. because they're never guaranteed. As soon as they're put out there, they're told, it's available kind of thing. So they're not even guaranteed. So you can't walk in thinking that you're definitely going to get that. And as we've seen by even the CEO of Marriott, it's built to the benefit of the house, them, than it is to the user, us. So by giving them the reward up front compared to having them to first attain it, gave them the success of having it and the desire to maintain it. Like, wow, I really like how I'm being treated for being at this level. I like the benefits. That would be valuable benefits. And from that, I don't want to lose this. So I'm wanting to be more loyal. I want to be more loyal. I want to book more here so I get to keep this relationship with the resort. And that was the benefit we saw from this. People that were getting it. First off, we first offered to all the people that were already checking with OTA saying, hey, we would love to make you that. So next time you can book directly with us, but you get all these benefits for doing so. We got channel shift off it, large channel shift off of it. Then on top of that, we got residual frequency increases. People that had stayed with us only once rebooked with us the following year to try to keep that relationship going with us. People that were coming kind of enough times came more times because they liked the value of being able to have the additional benefits. That's a membership program. But what's the real benefit of all of that is it allows you to create a direct, persistent communication link with those guests. By being a member means you are asking them, when would you want me to send something to you? What do you want me to send something about? How often do you want me to send this? By quantifying the relationship, they're less likely to want to cancel it because you're not being invasive. By offering what it is they're interested in, you're tailoring their interest to what you're offering. So they're not seeing unrelated white noise offers, just general junk new that you're throwing out there. You're not spraying and praying your marketing in hopes that something that you pushed out in the email that was generically sent to everybody was enticing enough for somebody to respond to. As we talked about workflows and segmentation, you're identifying and quantifying the people's information and interest, and then tailoring your communication to that so that they feel that you're truly keeping track of their personalization. Not everybody has great technology that can pick up the previous reservation interest that somebody had on the website when they were last there. That's expensive stuff to have. They can't keep a track of all the variations of what they're looking for unless they sign up. If they're saying, I always want downfill pillows in my room and an extra blanket, then that should be a persistent note on that guest folio when people book. That if anything, get it confirmed. Hi, Loren, the last time you stayed with us, you asked for extra pillows and a blanket. Would you like that again? That ability to proactively point that out in the reservation process is gold, because that reminds people that you're keeping track of them. Everyone wants to feel special. I understand they're one of many. We all understand that. But being treated as if we're one of few is what makes us want to return. So this direct communication value proposition, especially in the given environment that we're dealing with, you're already dealing with the restricted choice options that people have. If corporations, because of increased costs of travel for corporate travel, and it was already probably going through multiple layers of verification, given the fact this is the first year that corporate travel budgets were even put in the budget, added to the fact that it has to qualify to be worthy of the travel expense, because after all, we have other mediums in which we can do a good chunk of business that we used to do in person. Then you add on to it now the increased costs associated with people travel. You have now a stutter step as to people's desire to make the travel experience. So why not make sure that the people that are making the effort for travel are treated that much more special when it comes to their relationship with your business? And the best way to do that is direct communication, because that allows you more of a free-flowing dialogue, variety of ways of reaching out to them, and more quantified ways of reaching out to them, because you can tailor the messaging to them based on how they want to receive it and what they want to receive it about and how often they want to receive that information. So those are the key elements to that. And pretty much as a recap to my discussion to this, I was talking about the fact that there are things that we've talked about before, like chat bots, like Manychat, that allows you to create that collaboration through your web portal, social media portals that can translate into SMS messaging and email and so forth. Then there's other platforms that create your own social media environment, which allows peer-to-peer discussions for your guests by joining it, and things like that. Platforms like Uki, UUKI, that you can go. There's also another one called Mighty Networks, which does the same thing. A little bit pricier, but not bad. These aren't bad expenses to this. These are these are prosumer level engagements that you can do. And I think for the most part, given that if you're a brand hotel, you're not going to be able to exercise some of these things. But if you're not a branded hotel, you can. If you're a branded hotel, you are going to have to rely on the other sandboxes of businesses like Facebook to create those communities and cultures. And you have to give them a reason. The tough part about working with Facebook is organically, just because somebody signed up with you doesn't mean they're always going to see what you post. As a matter of fact, more likely they're not going to see anything of it. You're in that low 2 to 3 percentile of all traffic that somebody sees in their newsfeed, even though they've selected you to follow. So you're going to have to pay to get in front of them, to pay to play is the platform. And so if you can get them to your own platform, being social engagement, that's great. But as a branded hotel, you're relatively restricted to that process. You have to work through the brand's requirements and brand's allowances to do those types of things. And brand has their membership programs, their gift certificate programs. They have a lot of variations that they cover a lot of this stuff. However, it's very generic and it's not your guest, it's their guest, and they're sharing you in that information, and they don't always feature you in that information. They're going to offer what they think the guest wants to know, whether it's you or not. So even though you may have brought the guest to the table for them joining up with the brand's membership, loyalty, reward programs, you don't get the full benefit of that. So that's pretty much a quick review of it. My apologies for the slightly abbreviated show today. As I mentioned, with it being live and me traveling, this was wanted to make sure we didn't miss. We have never missed a live show every week now for we're in our 8th year right now, coming up to ready to transition to our 9th. And I've traveled all around the world. We've done it similar to this in this way. But it's something we're very thankful for being able to share this kind of information with. We hope everyone is safe and healthy. With that in mind, we will have a podcast that will recap a little bit of our highlights today, talk a little bit more about tools for other things, and talk a little bit about more news features and things that are more apolitical and immediate action kind of stuff for that as well. Sorry for not taking any chat conversations from anybody and or the simulcasting that will go on later. We will recast this show Wednesday, 11:30 a.m. Sydney time, Wednesday, 11:30 a.m. London time, to catch our different time zone variables as well. So with that, thank you for the privilege of your time. And my name is Loren Gray, and I look forward to talking to you next week.